Gerda Govine and Carla Sameth. They have done programs for the library before, and we're just honored that they're joining us again today for this special program, Poetry in Unexpected Places. So if you could please mute yourself. There's also chat has been set up. There is live transcript that you need to set up on your computer yourself. And today's program is going to be recorded, and it will be on YouTube Pasadena Library so that you can refer to it, because you are going to receive a plethora of information about poetry and how to write it. And today's program is Learn How to Write Poetry, about your real and imagined life experiences, where words land on the page one by one, from inside out and outside in, bringing a sense of wonder, endless discovery, and its own gift of freedom. You're going to learn a fine balancing act that keeps you on your toes and allows you to keep coming back and back to the poetry that you have written. So I want to tell you a little bit about two of our very special presenters. Gerda Govine Ituarte published 4 poetry collections, 2012 to 2018. She established the Pasadena Rose Poets in 2016, initiated poetry readings at Pasadena City Council meetings in 2017, lunchtime readings, and served as editor of their first publication, Poetry Collection, 2019, Reflection, Resistance, Reckoning, and Resurrection. Their 7th anniversary celebration will be held this July to include publication of their 2nd collection. Gerda's poetry was featured in numerous venues and published in diverse anthologies, journals, and newspapers. Her 2 poetry books will be released in 2022 and 2023. She earned her doctorate from Teachers College, Columbia University in Higher and Adult Education Administration. So now I want to tell you about Carla. And Carla, just a moment, please. And Carla is also a member of Pasadena Rose Poets. Carla Sameth's chapbook, What Is Left, was published December the 7th, 2021 with Dancing Girl Press. Her award-winning memoir, One Day on the Gold Line, and perhaps some of you have read that memoir as well, originally was published in 2019, will be reissued by Golden Foothills Press in 2022. Her writing on blended, unblended, queer, multiracial, and single-parent families appears in a variety of literary journals and anthologies. Carla's work has been twice named as Notable Essays of the Year and Best American Essays. A Pasadena Rose poet, a West Hollywood Pride poet, and a former Penn teaching artist, Carla teaches creative writing to high school and university students and has taught incarcerated youth. And so you can see by their bios how honored we are to have them presenting this Poetry in Unexpected Places today. So welcome, Gerda, and welcome, Carla. Thank you for presenting with us today.
Thank you. Okay, let me jump first for a second. First of all, I want to thank those of you that are with us today. We really appreciate it. And this is a time to have a good time in terms of writing. And writing and words are around you every single day of your life. And here's an opportunity to sort of catch a second wind and to find some different ways to write. And I look forward to this particular session. And I'm going to let Carla go ahead, and she's going to be giving you some instructions. Carla.
Hi, good afternoon, almost good evening. And we're just going to jump right in, but when you, I'm going to ask for some input from you. And when you speak, if you want to, we can see your names there already, but if you want to say one thing about yourself, feel free. In fact, I think we're such a small group right now. I'm actually going to have each of you quickly say just one thing about what brings you here today to this workshop. If it's okay, I'll just call on people in the order that I see them right now. Joan, can you unmute and introduce yourself? Tell us about anything you want to say about you and poetry. Are you there? Okay. Why don't Bradley, do you want to?
Did you admit her?
Oh, okay. I got muted for a minute. Yeah.
I can go. I'm Bradley. I don't have a whole lot of experience with poetry. I just started getting really interested in poetry about 6 months ago, I think. And I signed up for this class and thinking that it was tomorrow. And then when I realized it was today, I didn't think I would be home in time for it, but I managed to just miraculously make it home in time. And so I think it was meant to be today.
Welcome.
Very excited to be here.
Yeah. And Joan, are you there?
Oh.
Hi, do you want to just say one thing about yourself and what brings you here?
Well, I've been writing short stories for a while. Haven't done too much with poetry, so I am excited to see what happens today.
Yay, welcome. And Ruth.
Well, I'm 84 and I wrote poetry decades ago, and I thought it would be great to get reacquainted with it.
So glad to see you here. And Swante, did I mispronounce your name?
Well, just a little. That's normal. Swantje.
Swante, thank you. Do you want to just say one thing about what brings you here today?
I want to listen to poetry. I think I've been to these kinds of events already, and I like listening.
Oh, good. Okay, well, welcome. We're going to be writing and reading a couple poems as well. So the first thing I want you all to do is take out, whether you're going to write on your computer or write on paper, and I want you to really, without overthinking it, write down a list of like 3 topics that you obsess or you're curious about. 3 topics that you obsess or you're curious about. Does everybody have that? I'm not giving you a lot of time to obsess about it, get it? Does anyone want to volunteer and tell us what topics you wrote down?
I will volunteer. I have hiking, running, and tattoos.
Okay. Oh, wow. I can relate to at least 2 of those. Anybody else?
I have faith, peace, and decluttering.
Oh, I love the mixture. I love the really big and then the more like, concrete anti-cluttering. And I should have said they don't have to be like huge topic. They can be big or small. Anyone else want to volunteer?
Well, mine are pretty broad too. Gardens, animals, and people.
Great. Okay.
Carla, I'm going to jump in.
Yeah.
Mine. The Supreme Court system. You wonder why? Learning Spanish. My husband, we have a rule now that whenever I talk to him, I have to speak in Spanish, and I'm getting better. and also editing poetry.
I like that. I like the variety there. You guys came up with some great ones, and you can always change your mind. This is just to get you thinking. Today we're going to talk about writing poetry in alternative form, or hermit crab poetry or essays. You may have heard, has anyone heard of hermit crab essays? Well, let's just ask, does anyone know what a hermit crab is?
So
No, I should show a picture. Hang on, let me see if I can find something really quick. Well, I'll just tell you that it's a crab. Who knows? You know, Gerda, you know what a hermit crab is, right?
Kind of, sort of.
A crab that's found a place, it finds a place like to live inside of. So it finds a container to exist in.
Exactly.
And they adopt these already existing forms. So what we do when we think about writing a hermit crab poem or essay, and today we're going to be focusing more on shorter form, on poems or poem essays, if you go longer, micro essay, flash essay. But what we want to see that have you think about is the idea of taking a topic and thinking about what kinds of forms exist that topic might work as. And I want you to think about the range, I'm going to put up a list of forms, and then I want to see us kind of brainstorm a little bit too. So give me 1 second while I share. Okay. Oops, that's not the one I wanted. Hang on a second. We'll get to that. Don't worry. Okay, a brief list of genres. So I'm sorry the text is so little. Let me see. I can make it bigger though. For some reason, it came out really small in my. Okay. Some of the things that might come to mind, I'm going to throw out right away, are things like a to-do list, a letter of recommendation, those annual holiday letters. Has anyone ever wanted to do a riff on those? A field guide, a rejection letter. And you can see here, there's all kinds of things. And so basically you're taking this form. I once had a student who used instructions for getting your teenage daughter to like you. And it was written to like addressing a mother. This is what you have to do. Like, don't ask her too many questions right after school. It was a wonderful. So think about one of the reasons why I love to teach in these alternative forms, and why we like to do this, is because sometimes there's something that's really hard to get to. So, maybe you want to write about something that was traumatic. And a lot of times with trauma, we don't think in a real linear way. We might think of a fragment. And so using these alternative forms helps you get to the subject easier. When I was working on my memoir, in this case, it was an essay, but I knew that I wanted to write about some of the things that had happened to my Black son as he was getting old, as he got a little bit, he got a little older, a 7, 8, 9 teenager, young man. And I really had trouble figuring out how to approach that. And someone suggested write a list. You can do a list poem, you can do a list essay. Does anything come to mind for any of you in terms of a form that might not, it doesn't have to be on this list, but something that you think you might be able to use for a poem? Or for a subject that you're working on? Or just throw out any kind of form that, I had someone write a recipe for creating a Nazi. It was pretty interesting. We're going to show you some examples actually, but I just wanted to see if anything came to mind off the top of your head. Anybody?
One thing, directions.
Directions. Yes. A map.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
a myth, a tall tale, or a fairy tale.
Yes. I've seen some great pieces and poems done using that as as the container. Now, let me just say, sometimes the container suggests what you want to write about. So you might say, I want to write a fairy tale, and that might bring to mind a particular topic. Or you might have a topic that you're just like, God, I can't stop thinking about those tattoos. Like, what do you think? You know, maybe it's a how-to instruction manual, you know, or what to not do. Like, don't put the tattoo of the person you think you'll love and never leave, and you're only 16 years old. You know, tattoo parlors don't like the tattoo names on. Anyway, I digress. What I'd like to do, unless somebody has something else to add to this, I'd like to actually read together some examples. Does anyone else, can anyone else think of any other form that is kind of intriguing to you to use to write to?
Song lyrics.
Song lyrics, yes. I've had people do stuff with tweets or Instagram, a mock Instagram post, but I love the song lyrics. Okay, I'm gonna take us out of here for a minute. Now, there are lots and lots of examples of hermit crab poems and essays, and I'm gonna, in a little while, put something in the link, put a few things in the link for you to have as resources. A more detailed description of what hermit crab essays or poems are. But I want to show you an example. I love this. Is anyone familiar with the poet Victoria Chang? She is a wonderful, wonderful poet who wrote a whole book in the form of obituary. But let me show you. Let me show you. This was published in a journal called Agni. And I wonder if we have a volunteer to read this. Anyone? Because I get sick of hearing my voice.
Well, Swanti will.
Yeah, that'd be great. Okay, thanks, because I couldn't see. Swanti, why don't you go ahead? Start at the top here.
You don't see it yet.
You don't have it yet.
Oh, that share screen feature. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
You can make up a poem.
Okay, here we go.
Okay, we have it now.
Okay.
Optimism died on August 3rd, 2015 of monotony. Only later did my sister tell me that each time before she would fly home, she and my mother would cry together. The one time my mother cried to me, I said, "The doctor's wrong. You don't know how long. It could be a year or more." She didn't stop crying. I got up and left the room. Outside, 3 floors below, behind the building, a family was celebrating something in their yard. Piñatas, music, children momentarily suspended above the earth in a bounce house. That summer, we were not on earth, but pacing in the building above it. I was so afraid the happiness would rise up through the window like steam. People in the city can spend a lifetime never actually touching the earth once. I could hear the thumping of the sticks on the piñata. Once, a happy anticipation altered to the inevitability of the candy dropping. Now I close my eyes and try to remember the optimism of the thumping, the origin of things.
Great, wonderful read. I'm actually going to read it one more time so that you can get a feel for it. So again, this looks like for the, a print obituary. You can see the whole structure that she did here. Obit, optimism. Optimism died on August 3rd, 2015 of monotony. Only later did my sister tell me that each time before she would fly home, she and my mother would cry together. The one time my mother cried to me, I said, "The doctor's wrong. You don't know how long. It could be a year or more." She didn't stop crying. I got up and left the room. Outside, 3 floors below, behind the building, a family was celebrating something in their yard. Piñatas, music, children, momentarily suspended above earth in a bounce house. That summer, we were not on earth, but pacing in a building above it. I was so afraid their happiness would rise up through the window like steam. People in a city can spend a lifetime never actually touching the earth once. I could hear the thumping of the sticks on the piñata. Once a happy anticipation altered to the inevitability of the candy dropping. Now I close my eyes and try to remember the optimism of the thumping, the origin of things. Okay, did anyone want to say anything about this, or what did you notice about this poem?
Well, it doesn't, the lines don't rhyme. There's no, sometimes you think that poems rhyme at the end, or there's a pattern. They're short phrases.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Well, they've really chosen their words carefully in a way.
Yeah, very careful. That's one thing we know about poetry, right? It's really the economy of words and very careful word choice. But it takes a long time before you get to that. I mean, I always say on the first round, be true to your voice, put it all on paper, don't try to edit as you go along. And there is kind of a rhyme in here that I don't know was planned, you know, she may have just been, the doctor's wrong, you don't know how long. So this is one, and her name is Victoria Chang. So if you want to read more about her, I'm going to put the link in here in a few minutes. But, you know, she found that she was able to cover a lot of subjects by using this form of an obituary, which I thought was really quite clever.
Yeah,
oh, go ahead. Yeah.
I just want to say, you know, we're talking about death. And when most people think about death, you have the tendency to kind of close down because it's something so hard we don't want to have to deal with it, but we all do. But what she also did here is she brought a certain humanity and tenderness and opened a space for us to enter into her poem. It wasn't like she's going into gory details. She's talking about her mother and her denial. She's talking about seeing a family, enjoying themselves. And so it's like a yin and yang. And I think what I also liked is how at the end she connected it to really being grounded on the earth. Her mother is now leaving. So now she has to find a way to stay grounded. So it's a beautiful piece and it has a lot of layers that I think is really important. And this particular piece, it doesn't push you in, it pulls you in, and at the end, it gives you a big hug.
Yeah, and I love that, Gerda. Thank you. And she doesn't really, she gets into it by talking about the death of optimism, which I think is really, really interesting. So feel free to borrow from this form if you want to talk about the death of, you know, whatever it is, you know, because sometimes things do have a death. You know, we think of obituaries being a person dying, but anyway, so she did that throughout a book. If you're interested, look her up, look up her book. The next one that I want to share with you is from a poet, Layli Long Soldier, who Gerda spent a lot of time with her poetry in February. Gerda and I were on a residency together, and Gerda read this book really closely. And I'm going to have Gerda actually read the poem, but I'm going to put it up for you to follow along. And there's an introduction to the poem because it, let me just, okay. There's an introduction to the poem because it appeared, the New York Times poetry editor selected it to feature. It's taken from the book Whereas by Lele Long Soldier, but I'll let you go ahead and read, Gerda.
Okay, and I'm just going to start with the poem itself.
Oh, maybe give the introduction though, because it kind of gives what the thinking.
Okay, the backdrop.
Yeah.
Okay, sure.
So we still have the Optimism poem up.
Oh, okay. You can't see, you don't see the Whereas one?
I don't.
Nope.
No, it's not up.
Okay, let me see. This is a different screen share experience. Let me try this again and see if this works. Now, do you see it?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I learned something. Okay.
The New York Times Magazine, from Whereas Statements, poem, selected by Matthew Zabruda, December 2nd, 2016. In 2009, President Obama signed a congressional resolution of apology to Native Americans. In her first book, Whereas, Lele Long Soldier responds to that apology in a masterful long prose poem, Whereas Statements. The poem is at various times personal, historical, legalistic, intuitive, argumentative, angry, despairing, hopeful, and loving. As a dual citizen of the United States and the Oglala Lakota Nation, she writes, I must work, I must eat, I must art, I must mother, I must friend, I must listen. I must observe constantly, I must live. Selected by Matthew Zabruder. Whereas, my eyes land on the shoreline of the arrival of Europeans in North America, open a new chapter in the history of Native peoples, because in others, I hate the act of laughing when hurt, injured, or in cases of danger, that bitter hiding. My daughter picks up new habits from friends. She'd been running, tripped, slid on knees and palms onto asphalt. They carried her into the kitchen. She just felt she's bleeding. Deep red streams down her arms and legs, trails on white tile. I looked at her face. A smile quivered, a laugh, a nervous. Doing as her friends do, she braved new behavior, feigned a grin. I couldn't name it, but I could spot it. Stop, my girl. If you're hurting, cry. Like that, she let it out. A flood from living room to bathroom. Then a soft water pour. I washed carefully, light touch, clean cotton to bandage. I faced her, I reminded. In our home, in our family, we are ourselves, real feelings, be true. Yet I'm serious when I say, I laugh, reading the phrase, opened a new chapter. I can't help my body. I shake, the realization that it took this phrase to show. My daughter's quiver isn't new, but a deep practice, very old. She's watching me.
Thank you, Gerda. That was a beautiful reading of this.
And I need to say a couple of things before. One of the things about this particular writer, I found my reading her work, and it may sound a little strange to you, I felt this connection to her that was deep and wide in terms of people of color telling their stories in a way that is not customary. And I don't know, I read her book in I don't know how many days, and I couldn't stop reading it because I felt she was speaking directly to me. I felt that she opened a door, and it was a door that offered me gifts. And I also trusted her reading. It made sense to me. It really made me wonder. I was in a stage of wonderment. And so I felt connected to her in a way I didn't expect to feel connected.
Thank you. Does anyone else want to say something about this poem? You see, she did it in the form of a proclamation, and that might be something to think about if you feel stuck. Think about if you could do a proclamation, poem and a proclamation, what would that proclamation be? You might come up with a topic if you aren't smitten by the ones that you already came up with.
Yeah, and she sort of explained in a really nice way with this example with her daughter, like that situation, the general that general concept of laughing. Yeah, why do you laugh? It's not appropriate, but yeah, you do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But something I've been wondering about is why the formatting is so weird. For me, it only distracts me from the content.
Do you want to say anything about that, Gerda?
You know, what for me, you know, when I hear the word whereas, you know, I kind of go like, what is this stuff? What is it going to tell me? But I was a little bit hesitant because I've never read whereas before. But as I read her poetry, I got in deeper and deeper. Then I reached a certain comfort level where, you know, I felt like I was sort of inside her skin, if you will. And I was surprised at how I felt. And what it says for me is, you know, you read a poem and you don't know what gifts you may get from that particular piece. You know, some poems you read, you're like, it's okay. But I'm still moved by her writing, even as I'm talking to you today. Because it was a depth and an understanding that I connected with.
I think at the very beginning of this poem, it's in the format of actual proclamation. Like you probably all, maybe you have seen proclamations before. The city will do them sometimes I think we have one for the Pasadena Rose poets, right, Gerda?
We have three years. Yeah, yes.
Oh boy. And then there's the proclamation. There are some famous proclamations out there from so probably everybody has seen some form maybe of proclamation, but I think also I think it's an interesting question that you ask, Swan, that about the form and that you found it distracting, and I suspect with more time spending with this poet, I think she is a poet that takes a while to get to, and I almost didn't share that today because I know that she takes some getting used to, but I think that she's someone who is really deliberate in a way that you have to spend time very deliberate about form, and has like really breaks down all the ideas of what a poem should look like. And I think a lot of poets are doing, you know, there's a number of really talented poets that are doing that and finding their way in particular when they're writing about trauma, like historical trauma, genocide, racism. It's like they're finding their way in through these alternative forms. And so I really want to encourage you to just go wild, like try out whatever form. If there's a form that interests you, just start writing to it. You could take a line maybe that you heard or a word that you heard that stuck with you. You might, if it's a subject, think about, does it fit into any of these forms? But the rule, we have some rules, and the first rule is to don't stick to the rules. Like, don't be loyal to the prompt. If this doesn't work for you, you might decide, well, I want to pick the form that I want to pick for my poem is couplets, like 2-line stanzas, or you know, so you may go in a whole different, you know, you might decide you want to do an abecedarian. Does anyone know what that is? Remember those ABC books that little kids had? So an abecedarian is that, where you, like, A is for apple, B is for, and you can do that with a topic. I once was sort of intrigued why, you know, what a bad rap mothers got sometimes. Like I'd hear people talk about how my dad is like this horrible, drunk, violent person, but my mother, she's the one who really drove me crazy, you know, and it felt like, you know, the mother's getting a bad rap. So I decided to write something, but as a mother, it's easy to feel like a bad mother at times. So I wrote an abecedarian, the ABC Bad Mother. I forget what the title of it was. I'm still working on it after all these years, because I keep, you know, making new bad things to put in there, you know. But I mean, one of the things I did is some of the things that I had were really big and some were very small. Like I didn't cut up his apples and put peanut butter on them. You know, so here's an apple. So anyway, I encourage you to really just see what feels good to start with the form or to start with the topic and see how they match. Stay with your own voice, and go for whatever direction you are pulled in on this. We're going to write for at least 20 minutes. If people still look really like they're just got a lot to go, we might even go 25 minutes. If you'd like, I can put on some music, some soft music to write to. It sometimes is helpful. A wonderful writer gave me a playlist just for writing, so there's not a lot of lyrics in them to distract you. But turn your volume down if you don't want to hear it. And we'll come back in 20 minutes.
You want to go over what you want them to do?
Yeah, so I want you, thank you, Gerda.
Mm-hmm.
I normally in a class or thank you, I'd say, can you tell me what I just asked you to do? If anyone wants to summarize it, but I won't do that because we're all adults here. And I want you to consider trying out an alternative form, some kind of form of all the different ones that we talked about, and either start with the topic. So say tattoos, I keep going back to tattoos, and think, what would be an interesting form to write about tattoos in this? Or maybe you're intrigued by one of these forms, you know, let's say, let's name a form, pick a form, any form. A textbook article, like a mock textbook article. And maybe that makes you, you know, maybe that brings up a topic when you think about, I want to write a poem in the form as if it were a textbook entry. That may help you think of a particular subject based on the form that you're using. And I would say that if you're still not inspired, take one of the topics that you were obsessing about and start there. And maybe consider starting with, I'll put a link to Obit so you can even pull that up. And so if you want to start with a line from there, you could. Do you want to add anything to this, Gerda?
What I was thinking, sometimes for me, I'm on Facebook a lot. So sometimes, let's say somebody shows a photograph or shows a picture or whatever, I respond.
Mm-hmm.
And I keep track of those responses. So sometimes when I'm getting ready to write, I don't have a particular topic or whatever. I have a notebook on my iPhone. I call it Poetry Particles. So I make a list. So I'll go back and I'll say, whoa, this is a great title for a poem. Oh, whoa. So words are raining down upon us every day. So even to respond to somebody, that could be the beginning of a poem. Even to hear a TV commercial, even to look at directions on a box. So just leave it wide open and moving where you feel some curiosity. Let me put it that way. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that on the box. Like, how about a cereal box special offer? That would be an interesting or a Facebook post. But the other thing, like poets, that is a great reminder, like to always carry a little notebook, or if you do it on your phone, to write down words that intrigue you. And the best poets like to eavesdrop, so when you hear something, I once heard someone say, I had a really great day, except for when I saw that priest beating his dog. I was like, whoa, that line is going to find its way into a poem somewhere. So I would say, think about if there's something interesting that you've seen or you've heard recently, maybe start with that. Does anyone have any questions about the prompt?
I've never written poetry, so I find it kind of hard to begin somewhere.
Just start.
Maybe start with a list, like pick one of your topics and like tell me what one of your topics was again.
Decluttering was one.
Okay, 1, decluttering is necessary because I can no longer move in my kitchen. 2, I hate the word declutter. It makes me want to run away and hide. 3, I just decided to throw everything out all at once. Yeah, just
let yourself be. Just go for it.
Go for it. There's no wrong way to do this.
Exactly.
Okay, any other questions?
How much time?
You all ready to go? Okay, let's go for it. 20 minutes. How's everyone doing?
A lot better than expected.
Yes, that's what we like to hear.
Great.
Yeah. And if you
Great.
struggled, that's okay too. A lot of times people come back
Mhm.
on and say, God, that was hard, or that went easier than I thought, or
Mhm.
can I just please keep writing? But we'd love to allow a little time to hear what you wrote. Do people feel like that you were able to come to a stopping point?
Yeah, several times. And then I started again because everybody else wants to going. And then, yeah, I stopped again.
It's addictive.
Oh, I didn't realize I didn't have my video on. I'm sorry. Yeah, it is addictive. Sometimes it's hard. That's good. I hope you go back to it.
But starting with a list was really helpful.
Oh, good. Well, good. What were you gonna say, Gerda?
Yeah, I started a title of a nursery rhyme. Twinkle, twinkle, little star.
That was
Anyway.
brilliant.
Yeah, so I've never done it before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, who wants to go first? We don't force people to read, but we'd
Well,
love
I
to
can go
hear.
first because it's my first try.
Yeah,
All right, good.
definitely.
And I even kind of arranged it in different stanzas, or what you ever would say, and yeah, left one out that wasn't as good. So let me start. Decluttering. Where do I start? There are piles everywhere. My husband is complaining that he trips over things. It's dangerous. I can do it. KonMari is folding beautifully. My sock and underwear drawers look perfect. There's still a room full of stuff. It has to look worse before it can get better. I need time alone. One box at a time. Something else done. Now I know what I can give away. A little more freedom. Praise for a surface that now looks like another person's messy surface. What's hiding underneath? Do I need this? Do I want this? Does it bring me joy? I have a cave around me, a working cave of papers and books. I'm building caves naturally. Time to disassemble my cave. Trash out. My favorites can stay. Does this have a place? Where would I look for it? Is it important? Do I love it? Can I get again? Can I get it again? Would I move with it? Is it my treasure or somebody else's treasure? Does it give me joy?
I love so much about that. I love the way you Marie Kondo'd your poem. Yeah. And then that part about were you saying cape? That was
A cave.
a cave. That's what that's even better. I really thought for a moment it said time to disassemble my cape. And I was like, but I love disassemble cave. Though I thought I got disassemble cape.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There's so many good lines in there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a topic I think that interests a lot of us, definitely. And I really like, you did something very, very poet-like. The repetition, when you came back to, do I like it, to what you're supposed to ask yourself, right? Isn't that what Marie Kondo said? Yeah. And I love that you returned to that throughout. It was almost like a chorus, really wonderful.
Carl, let me jump in for a second. I knew, and this is going to sound a little bit weird. I knew that you were going to write something because I knew once you started down that path, you stopped, but then you started again because the words wouldn't let you be. You had to keep going. And congratulations. It's great. That's what happens when you just start writing, you know, it takes you on a journey that you don't even know you're taking. And I love what you did. It was really good. You covered everything. We know how you felt, the way you were deciding what to do with certain things. So bravo.
But Brave Soul wants to go next.
Okay.
If ever I can do it, everybody can do it.
Yeah. Ta-da!
Joan, I see you're unmuted. Does that mean you want to go? Can you hear me, Joan? It says you're unmuted, but for some reason we can't hear you speaking. Is your sound on? Let's see. Do you want to paste yours into the chat? You're not on, yeah, it shows that you're unmuted, Joan. Not sure why we're not hearing you.
Mhm.
I can sort of hear this faint.
Mhm. The volume maybe isn't up.
Is it, can you turn the volume up on your, on Zoom?
My microphone is on.
There, we're hearing more, a little more.
How's that?
Yes, yes,
Perfect,
you have
perfect.
shown.
Okay.
Okay, well. I was really surprised what I came up with. I did it in the form of lost and found.
Oh,
Okay.
I love it.
Well, not a found, just a lost actually. Lost. Red cherry tomato seedlings. A group of 6 short plants grounded in a turquoise plastic tray. Last seen years ago, sprawling over 8-foot tall stakes in a backyard in Altadena. Perhaps found in the company of a slow-moving fat striped caterpillar, or, as the weather warms, camouflaged in webbing and dotted with orange insects. Generous reward. Sweet red orbs, sun-warmed, hand dripping with sticky juice. Generous reward. His smile as one by one the red marbles disappear behind his beard. Generous reward. A plastic bag of softening red balls discovered at the bottom of a day pack and consumed in the shade of a Sierra Nevada pine tree. Generous reward. Olive oil, focaccia dotted with red fruits sweetened in the oven. Beware, imposters abound. Don't be fooled by the tiny sweet 100s. Take a pass on those yellow pears that will call themselves tomatoes. If found, please contact the skinny woman with stained fingers and dirt under her nails. And please keep a few for yourself.
Oh, that ending, that last line, what was that last line? Was please keep a few for yourself?
Yes.
Yeah.
Love it. Yeah.
Very good. Thank you. Great.
What a great idea. The lost, I love that. Yeah. There were so many good lines there. But I kind of, sometimes I just get lost in listening and I stop writing down the lines. Yeah. Yeah. Was that, so did you start out knowing that you wanted to write about tomatoes, or?
Yes, I did. But I didn't know I was writing. I didn't know what I was going to do. And then
How'd you come up with the form?
well, actually, because I'm trying to find some very tomato plants.
Yeah.
And so it just came to me. Maybe it lost and found.
Love it.
Great.
That's a good one. I'm going to remember that and use that as that idea as an example next time. Excellent. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. It's great.
Who wants to go next?
Who else is up there?
Ruth,
I could.
thank
Ruth,
you.
okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
This just came to me. It just popped out when I saw Fairy Tale.
Ah.
And I just knew I had to write this. If I can see it. Once upon a time, there was a little girl who was told every day that she was bad and stupid and inept. She yearned so much for kindness, and yet she had no power to make anyone else be kind. So she decided to make her own life wrap itself around that idea. It was terribly hard to do it, but she eventually became a teacher, then a therapist and writer. Her most fervent hope was to finish writing a book about her journey, including tips she had learned along the way to heal herself and others. That little girl, grown old, still is still struggling to make it happen. Will she succeed? Who knows?
Wow, wow, wow. You took us on a whole journey.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Your voice, you know, voice is really important to get to know your voice. And your voice comes out from the very beginning of that. Your voice, you know, it's just really important to get to know your voice from the very beginning of that. I have an echo. I'm not sure why.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Did you want to share something, Swunch? Gerda, did you want to say anything? I feel like Ruth, you might still be talking, but now you're muted.
No, I think she was done.
Oh, okay.
I think she was done.
Okay.
I'm going to read what I wrote. Can you hear me?
Yes, that would be great.
Okay. Twinkle, twinkle. I knew I was a twinkle in my dad's eyes. He nurtured me and taught me by example. As a little girl, I would go into my dad's office where he would be writing, studying, filling his pen with script ink, and typing. And I was fascinated from the sound of the keys hitting the paper. His rhythm and melody. And he was so focused. He would get boxes and boxes of books and papers, and he was in correspondence school. And one of the things for me is that I know the reason that I'm a teacher is because I saw my father initially struggle and ended up with his degree, doctorate degree. And he thrived, he did well. And so I became a teacher. And guess what I taught? I taught shorthand and typing. And I know that even today, even though he's passed on, I am still a twinkle in my dad's eyes.
I love the way you started that with the twinkle twinkle. Did you know what you were going to write? Like, which came first, the form or the twinkle twinkle or the subject?
Twinkle Twinkle came first, and then I went from there.
That's great. Yeah. So when in doubt, start with a nursery rhyme.
Yeah.
I love that. And it was the details that you used, like hearing, were the sensory specific details about hearing the keys on the paper. That was really vivid. That really brought that alive. It reminded me of why I like typewriters.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gerda and I recently did some typewriter poetry, and it's something I do with a group called Pride Poets, where we compose poems on demand. So we ask you, what do you need a poem for today? And then we write a poem on the typewriter. And the old typewriters give it all kinds of character that you might not, the form is dictated by the typewriter sometimes, or the typist, which I'm a terrible typist. So how about, can I interest anyone else in reading? No pressure. Bradley, are you interested in reading?
I don't think mine's ready yet.
Okay. No worries. How was your experience? Do you want to say anything about your writing experience?
It was great. I had I'm kind of I'm an analyst, so I use spreadsheets a lot. So my poem, which is kind of half finished, is in the form of a spreadsheet.
Love it. Oh, whoa. Yes. That makes me very happy. I'd like to see that. Yeah. We'll keep working on it. What topic are you writing about?
My doctor is changing some medication that I'm on because, you know, I was too low and then I was too high, and now I think I'm too low again. And so I've kind of got like down the diagonal, I've got the way that I feel when the medication is at the right level, and above it I've got how I feel when the medication is too high, and below it I've got how I feel when the medication is too low.
Wow.
Wow, that is brilliant. That is really, you really took the ball and ran with it. And I've seen someone do something like this using a form like for an immigration application, like filling it, or some other kind of application. It kind of reminds me of that, like, you know, I don't know, for some of us, having some kind of form or order is really helpful for getting our thoughts out, for organizing it. And it's not constraining sometimes, rather it kind of opens you up. It's counterintuitive, I think, really, because you would think you would be very restricted by the form, but actually it allows you to go in a whole different, to go in directions you wouldn't have thought of. Uh-oh, Saint Bernard is getting restless. Gerda, take over for a minute while I mute.
Okay. Anyone else that would like to share, even if you're not finished, you could just tell us what it's about, because I think this is a way to sort of have you take a bath in your own words without drowning. You know, you're able to do it and surprise yourself. So anyone else? Or any comments about what the experience was like for you, and what do you hope to do after today in terms of your writing? You know, it's not a true confession, but anything you'd like to share with us, that would be great. Okay, let me share something with you. One of the things that, oh yes, Carla, she's back. Are you muted? Are you?
Yeah, but go ahead. No.
Yeah, I was just going to say to them, one of the things that helps me to write is that my ears are always open, and then having what I call poetry particles, a list of words and phrases, because what you're doing, you're building a collection. And when you get ready to write, you can just look at it and then use that as a jumping off point to then put together some poetry. There's so many different ways you can write. I mean, I woke up in the morning, about 5 o'clock in the morning, and I had this poem in my head about the new Supreme Court Justice to be. And I must have written for like maybe 15, 20 minutes. And I've never done that before, but I woke up in my head and I didn't even get up to go to the office. I just went on my iPhone. So all I'm saying is leave the door open, because sometimes these words enters your dreams and enters your sleep, and honor them. Honor them, grab that pen or pencil and keep writing, or your iPhone. So I just need to say that, yeah.
That's a great note to end on. Unless somebody has a last question or share or anything, we're here still. You might hear a deep, deep bark from my Saint Bernard, but she's been really patient.
That's a good poem. Deep Bark. Title. I'm gonna take that.
Take it.
Okay.
You're
All right,
muted.
Christine, you're muted.
Thank you. I would just want to thank Carla and Gerda very much for a wonderful afternoon. We learned a lot. Your poems were lovely. I hope you'll all continue it. And I'm sure we will look forward to welcoming Carla and Gerda back. Again, they did a beautiful job for us this afternoon. And thank you so much. It's a wonderful way to celebrate the 20th anniversary of Poetry Month. So thank you very, very much for presenting for us today. And I hope the rest of you just keep on writing your poetry.
Did you get to write a poem too, Christine?
No, I didn't, but it does motivate me, motivate me to do so.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Well, keep us posted.
Yes. Thank you very, very much, Gerda and Carla, for doing this for us. And thank you all very much for coming to attend. We appreciate that very much, your support as well.
It was a pleasure having you all here today, being with you this afternoon. Thank you, Christine, for having us here.
Oh, you're very, very welcome.
And I just want to say it was great and we had fun. I wanted to be fun. We had fun. It was great and wonderful. And hopefully I'll be seeing some of you in the future in another session. We'll keep you posted.
Absolutely. Keep watching for Off the Shelf. Thank you so much for attending. Bye-bye. Have a nice evening, everyone. Good night.
Good night.
Bye.